Hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to What Matters and What More. We have the co-author of this new book, which you got to get if you're applying to Harvard and Stanford. In fact, no matter where you're applying, it would really be helpful for you to formulate your essays and your thinking by reading what successful applicants to Harvard and Stanford have done. And in this 188-page book, my God, Jeremy, it's a doorstopper. There are 50 successful essays that have gotten people into Harvard and Stanford. And what's really cool about it, and this I really like this, is the fact that 10 of them are from applicants who applied to both schools. So you see how they changed and modified their essay or what they cut and pasted. And the other really important ingredient in the book is the critiques of the essays by both Jeremy Scheinwald, who, as you all know, is the founder of MBA Mission, and Liza Wheel, who's the founder of Gatehouse Admissions. So the critiques are thoughtful, meaningful. They literally take apart paragraphs in each essay to make points. And I think they're incredibly helpful to everyone who's going to have to go through this process. Now, Jeremy, we're going to review one of these essays. It was written by someone who got into Stanford Graduate School of Business. His name is Lucas. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, I mean, I think, of course, the best thing to do is to read about him because you'll very quickly get a sense of his values, of who he is fundamentally as a person. The thing that I think is amazing about him is a lot of people feel like they have to kind of prove that they can go along and get along and be part of a team. And it's not that Lucas is saying that he can't do that, but what he's not afraid to say, look, I'm a contrarian. You know, we called this one in matters of principle, stand like a rock, the famous Jeffersonian quote. And it's because he's willing to, he's willing to be a team player and go along, but like he's got his values and that comes out. I mean, that is what matters to him, right? This is a GSB essay. And what matters to him is truth. And so he absolutely will not waver from his pursuit of truth, and that's what guides him and indeed empowers him in his life. And you see this in his, I think, in his fascinating opening paragraph, which we can talk about his relationship with his country's faith, and then you see that again, sort of in various formative stages in his education, and then especially in his work in the equities market, where we don't think about that as a job that's seeking truth, but when you're doing that in the equities market, it can be quite empowering and at a hedge fund, as he did.
So that's as the questions go, what matters most to you and why is kind of one of the trickiest. And last year there were over 7,000 people who had to write that essay. I think what strikes me the most, as you just pointed out, is his opening. Here he is in a Catholic country, and he wants to essentially disavow his faith. And that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I think what matters most to you and why is a really tough one, because there are universal things that matter to all of us: health, well-being, family well-being, like all sorts of, common themes that we all have. As these things go, and it's very unusual for someone to pick a theme that like they've never heard before, but truth is a tough one. Truth is a tough one to really own. And so, he talks about this and this introduction where he basically says, everyone in my country is going in this direction. In Lithuania, we're a Catholic country. There's no benefit to him he could privately say, look, I don't believe and this isn't for me. But he goes to all this trouble and even some personal cost to leave the church. I mean, he says in our society, one is insane to leave the church. He's actually declared insane. But it was so important to him to live his own values that he went to those efforts. And he says, I can't be married in my country. My life will be marginally more difficult socially, but I was nonetheless at peace with myself. And that's what's important to him. And if you believe that this is a high potential individual who's going to do amazing things in his field. We're talking on the day that Bernie Madoff died. I mean, you want someone who is going to be the opposite of that, who's going to be absolutely steadfast and resolute, and is not going to be, is not going to waver because they've been seeking short-term gain or an easy path. This is someone you can have a lot of faith in that is going to be true to himself throughout his career and if successful, it's not going to be revealed that he's a house of cards. It's so ingrained in him. So I thought it was a deeply empowering opening paragraph.
Now, what else do you like about this essay, and what does it teach others who read it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually, it gives us a variety of different windows of this person's life without it seeming like a biography. So
Mm.
we have a sense of values and history, and this he's come from an underrepresented country. So right away, then we get this sense of the scope of his education, but he's not just saying, I went here, I did that, this, I went here, I did that. He's sort of telling it anecdotally, and then he gets into his professional career, and again, lets a few anecdotes do the work for him instead of saying, like, I was very successful because of A, B, and C. He situationally puts us into this quest for truth that shows, pretty remarkable performance in calling out a few frauds and the respect he's received in his career, and the unusual nature of his career as the head of the head of equities at a hedge fund at a young age. I think one other thing that I really like is just that it's written in very plain and simple English, even with some occasional quirk left in of the way that he writes or thinks, because he's occasionally still translating a word from his native language to English or something like that. And the schools aren't looking to say, like, oh, well, you used a period instead of a comma, or a semicolon would have been appropriate there, or whatever it is, so we can't in any way let you into our school. That's not what they're trying to do. I mean, if you're a first language English speaker, you should be as careful as possible. Anyone should be as careful as possible, but they're not saying, like, this isn't a grammar contest. This is an attempt to learn about you and your values. And I mean, I think Lucas just hits a grand slam in that regard. I mean, there's no way that anyone could read this and not grasp who this individual is.
True. It's there's a lot of great value in the book overall, with the 50 different essays. What would you say is the big takeaway from just putting together the book?
It's going to sound like a cliche, John, but I think the biggest takeaway is be yourself. This person, I think a lot of people will be terrified to put together a first paragraph like this or a theme like this. I'm glad we're doing this one as our first. And I know Lukasz, and I know that even he thought about, maybe this is going to seem too standoffish for the maybe they'll be worried that I'm like a hothead who's going to constantly be contradicting people. But I think that he softened that appropriately to show that he can get along as well. But I think people are often afraid to be themselves. They think that there are certain themes. Oh, this is the GSB. I better tell them that I'm going to be the next Silicon Valley VC. There's room for you. There's room for high achievers in every different sphere, as long as you're truly a high achiever. And I don't think anyone should run from who they are. In fact, a test that I often give to our applicants, I say, hold this up, give this to a parent, give this to a friend, and have them read this. And if they can say, that's you, that is you, then I think you've done your job. You're not trying to be anything, you're trying to be yourself. It's not that everyone who's themselves gets in. It gives you your best chance to connect with a stranger, because they're really looking for authenticity and values. And if you can reflect that in your essay, that you've done your job.
Absolutely. Hey, What Matters and What More? It's the new book, co-authored by Jeremy Scheinwald and Liza Wheel. It's available at Poets and Quants and MBA Mission. Look it up. You want to have it. It's going to really help you think about how you should approach the essay questions, whether you apply to Harvard, Stanford, or any other top business school. And the variety in the book is amazing, I have to say. And the stories are incredible. Actually, it's entertaining to read about people.
Yeah.
Never mind that this is a book of essays for applications to 2 business schools. There are fascinating, entertaining, informative stories about people's lives that I found incredible.
Yeah, no, I think I think that there may be a market for people who are curious about others' walks through life, because there's some fascinating stories in here, indeed.
All right, buy it. You need it. Get it.
Thanks for
Jeremy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sponsoring the book. It's great to have another partnership with you.
Absolutely. All right, this is John Brennan, Poets and Quants. You've been watching Jeremy Scheinwald, the co-author of What Matters and What More, a 188-page book of 50 successful essays written by people who've been admitted to Harvard and Stanford, or both. Buy it.